Hello, welcome. My name is Marie. I will be posting videos to help you distress asterisk, and I'm so very glad you're here with me. Find a soft, comfortable place to rest, perhaps under a warm blanket. Let your body relax, let your breath slow down, and allow your mind to drift with me. Tonight, I want to share a story with you, not just any story, but a tapestry of memory woven from threads of time, from the golden sun of the south to the misty Emerald Hills of the North. This is a journey into a world long past the 1500s 500. Years ago, we are going to walk together through 16th century Spain. But this is not a history lesson, no dates to memorize, no battles or kings to recite, no. This is different. This is a world you will feel, a world you will touch, smell, hear as if you were there yourself. Imagine. If you will, a room of old wood, its beams heavy with tima, single candle flickers on the table between us. The light glints off the rim of a silver goblet. The scent of beeswax and aged paper fills the air, and before us rests a very old book. Its pages are thicky eligiges, uneven. The cover smells faintly of oil and dust. With every turn, it crinkles softly beneath our fingers. This book is our portale. Window into lives once lived, into a time when the world felt both smaller and impossibly vast. Can you hear it? Distant whisper of a breeze slipping through stone arches, murmur of a marketplace at dawn, rustle of skirts, the creak of saddle leather, distant echo of bells. Close your eyes now, if you haven't already. Feel the ground beneath you firm and still. Let it anchor you as we begin to step backwards, slow, careful, gently. Step by step, like descending into a warm bath of memory, layer of the present falling away, softly, gently. All that remains is the hush of another time. We will not rush. Every part of this world serves to be seen and heard and felt. Will explore its landscape as its mountains and rivers and sunlit orchards. Will feel the linen of a peasant's tunic, brocade of a noblewoman's gown. Will smell the roasting chestnut's hair, the gentle tapping of a craftsman's tools. You'll meet women from gilded chambers to sun-baked fields, each with her own world, her own rhythm, her own kind of strength. And I'll be here with you, softly guiding you, gently whispering stories to your soul as you rest and drift and dream. Are you ready? Good, let's turn the pageant, begin our journey to 16th century Spain. Let's begin by stepping into the land itself. Let it rise slowly around you as if the mist is parting, groveling. Shapes, textures, and the breath of the earth itself. Spain, or as it was known then, the kingdoms of Castile, Aragon, Navarre, and others, was a land of striking contrasts, a land where stone met sunlight, where the highlands whispered secret sand, the sea ever patient like the ancient shores. Let's begin in the hearth, Masada Centrala high, dry plain stretching across the center like a vast sun-bleached parchment. Can you feel it? That open, endless sky above you, a pale, eternal blue with barely a wisp of cloud to break its stillness. The air here is crisp light with a whisper of wild thyme carried on the breeze, underfoot. Earth is hard and sun-baked, crunching gently as you step. Dry grasses bend in the wind here, golden blades brushing one another like old paper dot in the distancia. Shepherd guides his flock of merino sheep, their wolfic rich and prized across all of Europe, is the lifeblood of this land. He walks with slow, patientious crook, tapping against the rocky soil, leather pouch slung across his shoulder, counting. Dried fig score spread in a flask of sharp red wine. Now let us drift southward in Andalusia. Do you feel it? That sudden change in warp, like stepping into the golden hush of late afternoon. The sun here is bold, it pours over the land like honey whitewashed. Villages cling to hillsides, walls gleaming beneath terracotta rooftops. Their courtyards are cool-shaded by climbing vines and clay tiles. Can you smell the orange blossoms? They bloom everywhere along garden paths and city squares, sweet and heady, drifting on the same breeze that carries the low hum of a distant song. The Guadalquivir River wanes. Gently its waters smooth and green shimmering in the sun-flat-bottomed boats. drift slowly by laden with barrels of olive oil and amphorae of wine and luxuria. Field of olive trees each, one ancient and twisted their silver-green leaves whispering secrets. Their fruit will be pressed into golden oilless for cooking, for Leighton, for the anointing of kings and infants alike. Now, let's turn again this time. To the north, the land becomes greenish cool to the skin. This is Galicia and Cantabria, or the mist clings to the trees like lace close. Your eyes, can you feel the gentle droplets of rain on your cheeks? The salt carried from the Atlantic? There is a dampness, hair soft, refreshing that soaks into moss-covered stone Cinto. Thick forest Cinto, the soul stone villages nestle into valley shimmies, sending up little tendrils of smoke homes built to endure both wind and memory cows with deep brown eyes. Gray slowly on steep hillsides, their bells chime soft-like going in the damp air. The forests here hold mushrooms, wild herbs, and the occasional truffle dug up by careful hands and eager dogs. Each region of this land has its own heartbeat, its own smell, its own song. Even the wind changes its voice in the south. It sings with warmth and dust in the north. It whispers through the trees like an old lullaby, but beneath it, all beneath the surface we walk upon, there is treasure silvered and deep in the mines of Castile and Aragon, drawn up with sweat and toilet, glints beneath the earth chest. As gold glints in the river sand rubies, in the dreams of merchants, this is not just geography, it is the foundation of everything. Wool of the sheep, oil of the olives, the salt from the sea, the metal from the mountains, these are not just resources, they are lifeblood, currency, power, hope. They are the silent hands shaping every home, every gown, every loaf of bread. So remember when we meet the people of this time, when we sit beside them and feel their world, we'll feel this world too, the sun-warmed earth beneath their sandals, rough wool on their skin, the spice in their stew, the wind that tousled their hair. The land always speaks first, let your breath slow again as we drift deeper into the woven fabric of life in 16th century Spain. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and imagine you are looking down at a tapestry, not a painting, not a map, but a living, breathing cloth, each thread tightly polymetically, placid, its colors deep and deliberate emphasis. The society of the time, every thread a soul, every note a law, every twist a consequence. We begin with the golden thread. Crown Spain had only recently become what we might call a single nation. Before that, it was a collection of kingdoms, each with its own moss, its own pride, and its own tongue. But with the marriage of Queen Isabella of Castile, King Ferdinand of Aragon, a great shift began to they were known as the Catholic monarchs. Their union brought strength, a shared vision, and a desire for unity. Imagine them not as figures on coins or dusty portraits, but as living beings. She, sure, devout, he, calculating, determined, together, unstoppable. Their grandson Charles V would inherit not only Spain but the Holy Roman Empire. He was emperor over lands stretching across Europe and even into the Americas. Power was central, and absolute monarchy was not just accepted, was believed to be ordained by God. The king's will was law, his blood sacred, his rule divine. Now imagine how such power ripples down through the tapestry, from the palisesto, the plazas, from the cordo, the cloister, the next thread a deep crimsonus. The church in 16th century Spain. Faith was not a private matter, was the air you breathed, rhythm of the day, the architecture of thought. Church bells rang every hornet, just to mark time but to call the soul home. Cathedrals dominated the skyline, their towers reaching skyward as if to pull heaven down to earth. Priests were not only spiritual leaders, they were often the only literate members of the community. They advocated, recorded births and deaths, translated Latin and whispered confessions behind veils of incense. For most people, life was lived in the presence of the church, from baptism to Moriagedo, burial beneath the chapel floor. And yet faith had shadows too. Whisper now as we speak of the Inquisition. It began as a tool to enforce religious conformity, a way to ensure that all within Spain's borders believed right things. Said the right prayer station the right days, but it became Moria soft and terrible firth it, settled in the bones of every citizen imagine. Living a life where your neighbor might be your accuser, where a careless word, a forgotten fasta, misquoted versicle bring. Men robust and the weight of suspicion. The accused were not always guilty, and the guilty were not always clear, but the machinery of judgment moved anyway. Slow metastonic live under the Inquisition was to live under a sky that could turn dark at any moment, so people watched their steps, watched their speech, watched each other, and always prayed no. Pull back again and see the full tapestry of the top, the king beside him, the church. But what of the people? The noblemen, the merchants, farmers and shepherds, the mothers and daughters? They are the fabric itself, woven tight to mites, frayed, sometimes vibrant. They lived in a world that moved around them, above them, but always through them. Their daily choiceways were shaped by these powers, their marjas, their prayers, their trades, and silence were all. In some way, reflections off the king and the church now draw even closer. We will leave behind the halls of power and enter the hearths and gardens of women. We will walk with them, watch them, listen to their quiet strength, for it is there in the rhythm of their lives that the real pulse of this world can be felt. Come closer, Noma, closer. We're going behind the thick velvet curtains through the great wooden doors of a stone palace into a world few ever see, a world of tapestries and silk soft heavy rings and soft whispers of expectation and precision. This is the world of La Dama, the noble woman. Let the walls rise around Yalfik, cool stone carved with family crests and saints' faces. The floor is cold beneath bare feet and less covered with carpets from granador, the skins of beasts hunted on royal lands. The air smells faintly of dice wax, rose water, and something faintly metallic perhaps. The polish used on armor, the brass candle holders lining the walls. Her room is vast but not warm, cold beauty grand. Tapestries cover the walls to keep the draught at bay. They depict myths, family history, biblical triumphs, and in the center of it, Alan. A carved wooden bed layered with cushion sits the lady of the house. She is still young, perhaps 16, perhaps 20. She wakes late. A servant draws open the thick curtains, letting in a shaft of golden light dust, motes dancing within it like tiny stars. She is helped from the beta woolen robe wrapped around her slippers, placed at her feet. Her first act is to pray kneeling on a small embroidered cushion. She murmurs in Latinized close. She prays not just for the day, but for guidance, for grace, for strength in her duties. Then she is dressed slow-likely by layer first. The linen camisette but tightly drawn, then the corset list. Tightly so tight-lipped that she must hold her breath as it is drawn in next. The farthingalia hoop skirto give her shape the proper bow, and finale a gown of deep red velvet embroidered with gold thread. Sleeves are long and heavy lined with fur. Her hair is styled, each strand placed with care, braided colladad with pearls, and on her skin a powder of white lateau make her paler. Paleness is nobility. It means she does not work in the sun, that she is untouched by labor. Her lips stained with crushed cochineal, her hands delicate at dry from the powder, her scent of faint trail of rose water and violet root. She walks slowly as though every movement is a performance, because it is her. Day consists of tasks, but not the kind you and I know. There is music, a quiet hour spent plucking the strings of a lute. There is embroidery at knee, meticulous stitches, greeting flowers, scrossers. Are letters written in Latin read aloud to her by a tutor, and there is supervision. She must watch the household accounts, oversee the kitchens, ensure the servants are proper, all the while she's being watched to judged, measured. Is she graceful enough? Does she walk like a lady, speak like a lady, smile at the right time? Because soon she will be married, not for love, no for status, for politics. A contract will be drawn, gold exchange papers signed, and She will leave her home perhaps forever. She might cry at night in silence into her palazzo as not to be heard. She might dream of the stable boy or the books she is not allowed to read or the poetry she secretly writes, but in the daylight she will be a lady poised at the world of la dame, world of privilege and pressure, of beauty and burden, golden cage with silk-lined walls, not let the cold stone palace fade from your mind, let the silence of high towers dissolve. We're going somewhere. Warmer, busier live with movement and scent the city. Perhaps Seville or Valencia or even Tolda where old merged arches still cast their curved shadows across the cobbled streets. Can you hear it? The rhythm of footsteps on stone-earth layered murmur of 100 conversations in a dozen languages, the rustle of market, stalls being uncovered in the early light. The merchant's house stands above the shop, modest by noble standards, but wide and solid with a thick wooden door and iron-grilled windows in sedule. Tile floors a courtyard open to the sky where orange trees offer shade and perfume. This is the domain of La Esposa del Mercader. Merchant's wife, she rises early before the sun spills fully over the rooftops. There is no silk robe waiting for her now. Servant to lace her corset, she dresses her souffleur by layering clothes she chosen maintains her. Gown is made of fine wool dyed a deep blue with a neat square neckline. A linen apron covers the front crisp and clean. Her hair is tied back in a braid coiled and pinned efficient elegant. She begins her day with quiet prayer and a simple breakfast of bread soaked and warm, milk and sprinkled with cinnamon. If the house is doing well, her tasks are many. She checks the ledger from the shop, she tallies costs, she makes a list for the market. If her husband is away perhaps in Barcelona or Cadiz, may run the shop in his absence. Imagine her standing at the counter, her fingers running over bolts of imported fabric velvets dyed in crushed Berries cottons from distant ports. She speaks with customers, carefully, formally. Her reputation is her currency, to be seen as frivolous or proud will be ruinous, and so she moves with balance unever, too fast, never too bold, always gracious, always aware. The shop smells of leather spitioned, sometimes ink from the records she keeps in her steady hand. At mid-morning she walks to the market square. The streets are crowded and she pulls her shawl a little tighter. The stalls overflow with color green figs, red peppers, bright yellow saffron, and tiny folded papers and then new things. No generation before her had ever seen a tomato bright and red like a jewel strain suspicious. Is it a fruit or poison? Caca from across the sea, bitter and thick, but when mixed with sugar, a luxury unlike any other. She gathers herbs, a wheel of goat cheese and a jar of honey, each coin exchanged carefully, deliberately, follows Elsa. Her here two whispers float on the breeze. She keeps a neat house. Her accounts are sharp. She wears the same dress, but always spotless. Back home Ash cooks Celia lentil stew with garlic, onions, and a sprinkle of thyme. A loaf of bread rests on the hearth later. She may write not poetry nit philosophy, but inventory shipments accounts. She teaches her daughter to read her, embroiders a kerchief for a niece's wedding, and when the bells toll for vespers lights, a candling gives thanks. Her world may be smaller than a noblewoman's, but it is hers. She knows every corner of her kitchen, every creak in the floor, every mark in the ledger. There is pride here, order, purpose, and if a stranger were to knock hungry or lost, she would press a slice of bread into his hand and send him on with a prayer. This is the world of the merchant's wife, Sabris fiddle. World balanced carefully between independence and expectation. One foot in the home, one in the street, and a heart always listening, always watching. Let views leave the city. Behind now its tower sits, tiled courtyard sits, scented markets. Let the echo of church bells grow faint until all you hear is the whisper of wind through wheat fields. Welcome to the countryside, to a quiet village where the streets are unpaved and the walls are made of mud brick and stone. The homes here are lousable humbly, or 2 rooms at most, a hearth for cooking, a single table, a few wooden stools, a small straw bed, blankets. Sewn by hand a wooden crucifix on the wall faces the world of La Campesinath. Peasant woman, she wakes before dawn always. The air is cold and the fire has long gone out. She wraps her shoulders in a woven shawl and stirs the embers. The wood crackles softly. She adds another log breakfast. A simple a crust of bread, perhaps a bit of cheeseth. The goat has been generous. She eats standing as she prepares for the day. There is no rest here. There is only rhythm and labor and repetition. She feeds the chicken, scatters seed with a practiced hand. She checks on the cow, strokes its side gently and murmurs softly to it. She gathers eggs gold and smooth in her palm, and she kneels in the garden, her hands in the earth. Soil is dark for grand olives. Weeds carefully pulls gently at the roots. Her nails stained with dirt, their sleeves rolled to her elbows. The sun climbs the birds, sing a breeze, carries the scent of rosemary and nearby sheep inside. The stew begins. Lentil Sonia, little salt. She stirs it slowly with a wooden spoon. Her arm moves in slow circles. This is what fills the home, not perfumes, but wood smoke note. Rosebud, garlic, and ash children play in the yard barefoot, laughing softly. She watches them while spinning wool. The spindle turns, twists and winds, tightens. Her clothes are scratchy, homespun, coarse to the touch, but warm, reliable. In her home every object matters. Every bowl, every basket, every spoon was made by hand or passed down generation by generation. She carries stories in her bones, recipes, remedies, superstitions. If a child falls, Ilse knows what herbs to boil. If a hen stops laying, she whispers to Saint Isidore. She crosses herself before every meal and leaves an extra crust of bread for the wandering soul, just in case. The church's small stone whitewashed at its door, a bell that tolls only for mass and morning. She walks there on feast days, wearing her cleanest apron, her shoes scrubbed bright. She sings softly with the others, bows her head, whispers her fears into the hands of saints, and once a year comes the great festival. The plaza is swept clean. Streets are draped in banners. A lamb is roasted. Music fills the night. She dances for once with no weight on her shoulders. Then it is morning again, and the rhythm begins anew. But she does not complain. She does not falter. She holds her family together like thread through fabrics invisible and unbreakable. This is the world of La Campesinath, calloused hands and full hearts of steady patience and quiet wisdom. A world built not of stone, but of earth and of love. Come, now closer, gang, take one last Breithoff wood smoke and lavender, and the faint trace of candle wax melting on stone. Our journey through the winding halls and fields and quiet rooms of 16th century Spanies drawing to a close. We have seen the Meseta felt its dry wind press against our skin. We have stepped into the whitewashed villages of the south, breathed in the sweet golden scent of orange blossoms. We have stood on misty northern cliffs, watching waves crash endlessly beneath the weight of sky. We did not visit the Spain of maps and monarchs that entirely. We walked in the footsteps of people, real people, people who woke each day with a task to do, a meal to prepare, a fear to quieta, hope to hold on to, felt the stiffness of a noble woman's corset, rustle of silks too fine to rest against skin. We watched her press her lips together, swallowing dreams that did not fit the world's plan for her. We stood beside the merchant's wife, her fingers dusty with flair, her gaze sharp as she balanced ledgers and gossip alike, a woman of numbers and negotiation, of reputation, of quiet dignity. And we knelt in the garden with the campus in our hands, in the same soil her ancestors touched. We tasted her stew, felt the weight of her fatigue, but also the warmth of her pride. Across all these Lidiswo found echoes of one another, a thread of resilience, a pattern woven with care and sacrifice. Spain in the 1500s was a place of contradiction, of gold-laden galleons returning from the New World, while hunger still lingered in the villages, of monumental cathedrals rising into the heavens, while whispers of the Inquisition coiled through the alleys of beauty and fear of power and prayer. And yet beneath it all there were people like you, with hands and voices and dreams. Now can you feel it? The sounds are fading, scent of olives and rain has drifted away. the sunlight of a long lost. Century dims get like the last candle in a quiet room. We are returning slow, swiftly out. Your space to your breath. Feel your body against the weight of your limbs. Rise and fall of your chest. Let your fingers twitch. Gently let your eyes soften you. Are here, and the story has left its mark. It lingers in the folds of your memory, in the hush between heartbeats, and the breath that still carries orange blossom and wood smoke. Think. Yo, for walking with me, for listening, for dreaming. I hope you feel a little more connected, a little more peaceful, and just a little more curious about the souls who came before us. Until next timorous, well, sleep deeply, and may gentle stories guide your dreams. Come with me now down a narrow alleyway where the scent of oil and metal drifts. Unwarm air, the stones beneath our feet are uneven, worn smooth by carts and boots, and by time itself. We are entering the working soul of the city, place where tools ring louder than bells and hands speak their own language. Here live the craftsmen, the weavers, the smiths, the shoemakers, artisans whose fingers trace the veins of civilization. Let us start at the forge. The blacksmith's door is open, always open. The air is thick with smoke and heat. The sun is unmistakably on and sweater coal and singed leather. And city a man stands before the flame-broad shoulder edifice, streaked with soothes shirt damp at the collar. He lifts the hammer, Higgin brings it down once, twice, a rhythm steady and chanting through the bones of the building. Sparks leap into the air like fireflies. Can you feel the vibration in your chest? The deep thrum of work-a-levy is shaping a horseshoe today, but he also shapes hings or latches nails by the hundred. Sametamessa blade, look close-eye at the boy by the corner, eyes wide bare. Feet dusty, a silent apprentice, watching every movement. One day will swing the hammer. One day his hands will carry this rhythm now. Step back and follow the curve of the street. A door opens to the hum of spinning wheels. We have entered the workshop of a weaver. The air is filled with the scent of dyed thread wool and lightened warm oilway. Woman sits at a large wooden loom. Her hands move like flowing water forward. Back pull tape. Delicate rhythm for Cizella's sacred. The fabric grows slowly thread by thread. Soft linen for a merchant's daughter, or a striped wool for a shepherd's new cloak. Dyes soak in wooden bowls beside her. Saffron yellow, indigo blue, the deepest, richest cochineal red. Each color tells a story. Each pattern speaks of region, of status, of pride. Can you see the woman's fingers? Causetti yet gentle, her eyes do not leave her work, not once. We step softly back onto the street. Our last stop, a small, dim shop filled with the scent of parchment, of ink, of leather. This is the domain of the bookbinder. The room is quiet. Reverent scrolls are laid open like wings. Pages are stacked in neat bundles. The covers rest near soft leather stretched over wood, ready to embrace words. The man behind the table uses a bone tool to press creases into the pages. He binds them with thin cords, tight mesh-altered. Script inside is meticulous, not printed, not. This book was written by hand. Perhaps it is a prayer book. Perhaps a record of taxes or a personal diary, confessions whispered only to ink and paper. Can you imagine the feel of the pages? The crinkled coolness of vellum beneath your fingertips? Every fold here is precise, every thread deliberate. A book is not just a vessel for words. It is a work of the hand and of the heart. Now let us return to the doorway. Take one last look behind you at the tools hanging on the walls. Shavings of wood on the floor, the worn bench where 1,000 tasks have passed. These craftsmen, Daisy, makers to your lives, were not grand, but they were precise, devoted, full of rhythm, full of memory. They left behind no monuments, but they shaped every hinge, every clasp, every thread that held their world together. Open your eyes gently and imagine the first golden light of morning pouring over red-tiled rooftops. Can you hear it? The murmuring of voices, the soft shuffling of footsteps on packed earth, distant bray of a muleth, clinking of metal coins exchanged between fingers. You are in the heart of a Spanish town in the 16th century, and the market is waking. Step with me, breathe in. The air is thick with smell and sound crushed. All this warm bread still steaming. Tang of sheep's cheese in woven baskets and sweet figs spilling from wooden crates. To your left, a fishmonger waves a glistening sardine in the air, calling to passing cooks. To your right, a child runs past, laughing, his hand sticky with honey and almonds everywheres. Movement, my woman lifts a basket of oranges onto her hip. A man tightens the strap of a donkey cart. The cobbler hammers a tiny nail into a child's sandal, his hands swift and precise. Listen. Closer, there is a rhythm here, a music of its own, not the music of strings and flutes, but the gentle percussion of daily life coins, tapping on scales lids, lifting from clay jars knives, slicing through bright red pomegranates, every transaction, every glance eyes. Part of the dance now, walk with me to the spice stall. Lean closer, close your eyes just for a moment. Can you smell it? Cloves, cinnamon, crushed peppercorn, and saffron threads. The stallholder speaks softly, almost like a chant listing. The origins of his treasure, Selapotistis. Canary Islands. He pulls open a drawer, insidia, delicate powder, the color of somewhat gold. He dabs a little on the back of your hand. It smells like fire and fruit sharp sweat bractex. Ona woman sells dyed cloth. Her fingers flutter over bolts of fabric, sapphire, blue lip, green or red, so deep it almost drinks the light. She holds one up to your face of cool it, brushes your cheek like a whisper. She smiles, not a saleswoman's smile, but a mother's smile, proud of her work now as the sun climbs higher. Stillness begins to settle, shutters close, stalls are covered, voices fade as time for siesta. Streets are quiet, shaded. In the silence you can hear the flutter of doves. Wings in the slow drip of a courtyard fountain, the town exhales, even the cats nap. In patches of sunlight you rest too, in the hush, in the still breath of early afternoon, and thin as the sun lowers you. Hear it again, drums, lutes, laughter, the feast begins. Come now, follow the flickering of lanterns hung from door to door. The sky is deepening. Into Indigo Plaza blooms with people, women in flowing skirts, men with sashes tied at their waist, children chasing shadows. Their laughter like bells, plates are passed between friends, roasted peppers stuffed with cheese crisp, fried sardines, plums so ripe they burst on the tongue. A jug of red wine is lifted, poured into ceramic cups. A toasto, health to, saints to the simple pleasure of being alive. A musician strums a slow chord, then another, thin. The rhythm builds, you are pulled into a circle of dancers' hands. With feet stepped together, your body learns the music and forgets everything else. The night unfolds like a tapestry, gold. Thread and midnight blue stories are told, secrets are exchanged, two lovers disappear behind a curtain of vines, and stealth drums beat. Uneventulous stars shine brighter than the lanterns. The fire becomes embers and people drift away in person silence. You stay for just a moment longer, watching the last swirl of a dancer's skirt, feeling the last sip of wine warming your throat, hearing the echo of a lullaby hummed somewhere nearby. This is the heartbeat of the people, the rhythm of markets and feasts, a pulse that has never truly stopped. Charlotte. Your footsteps soften, lower your voice. We are entering sacred space, not a grand cathedral, not yet, but a small chapel nestled beside the road. Kind a traveler might pause to visit before continuing their journey. Step through the arched wooden door, feel the coolness immediately. Hush like the air is holding its breath. Stone walls rise around you, worn smooth by centuries of prayer. Single stained glass window paints the floor in dusty reds and blues. A woman kneels, her shawl pulled over her head, her hands folded, knotted with time, but steady. She does not speak, she does not need to. Her prayers rise like steam from warm bread, invisible. It real in 16th century Spain. Faith is not a part of life, it is life. From morning until night it is woven into breath. Into step, into silence. The day begins with a bell, not a harsh bell, but a round, echoing tone that floats through the town, calling the faithful to miss at dawn. Women press palms to their lips, children blink sleepily as they cross themselves. Church is not optional, it is expected, like breath. Inside the village church, wax drips slowly from thick Stubby candles, the air smells of smoke and lavender and old wood. The priest moves gently, his voice soft but certain his. Latin chants echo into the rafters. Few understand the words, but they understand the tone, and tone is everything. A noble woman listens. With eyes downcast, thins glowed a string of jet-black rosary beads hanging from her wrist. A farmer stands with his cap in hand mid, still on his boots. He prays for Rainer, for its ended child, watches the colored light spill from a stained glass angel, imagining that maybe, just maybe, fear being watched and return let us walk to the cathedral, not just a church, but a statement stone carved with devotion and power. The doors are enormous, tall enough to let in the heavens, carved with saints and Storius and Sayu. It feels small, but not alone. The ceilings arch, impossibly high-ribbed, like a great stone skeleton. Every inch of wall is painted gilt-wedged by eyes of saints and martyrs. Light slants through rose windows, spilling rainbow onto flagstone and harrow hair. The organet's voice, like thunder wrapped in velvet, every note holds the weight of centuries. And yet faith is not only in stone and ceremony, it is also in the quiet places, in the way a girl crosses herself before sleep, and the charms sewn into a dress. Heman the whispers of a mother over her sick child. Faith Isa presents a warmth, and Semedim as a fear, because alongside the sacred walks the shadow. Let me take your hand now, soft lie, are approaching the Inquisition, but do not worry, we'll move gently you. Seeing the cities and townspeople speak carefully, eyes shift before words are said, for in these years faith is not just a private devotion, it is enforced, inspected, tested. The Holy Office watches accusations come from a neighbor, a servant, a mistaken, a festival prayer, a slip of tongue, a recipe that looks too foreign. That is all it takes, and so people grow quiet. They keep their altars clean, they display their crosses, but behind closed doors some still whisper the old mammoth once passed down mother to daughter, father to son, names of gods that are no longer welcome, names said with both reverence and fear. Faith and shadow, two sides of the same candle. Let us leave the subject here quietly with respect and return to the warmth of evening prayers. The chapel lights flicker, a woman sings softly in the distancia, lullaby for the soul, and above us stars blink steady, unchanging, like the rhythm of faith itself. Air is still cool, but the sky is already pale with morning light. Dew clings to blades of grass. Oh, world feels passageous for a moment before the first footstep breaks the silence. You stand at the edge of a long, uneven road. Behind you a small village exhales its dreams. Before you a journey begins. This is not modern travel. There are no maps folded neatly in pockets, no carriages waiting on paved streets. Share you travel by foot or mulier if your fortunacia sturdy. Cart creaking under the weight of goods and gossip. The roads are Roman. Bone Sansient Wurtnell holding the shape of empire. You hear the crunch of gravel, the flap of a bird's wings overhead, soft jingling of a bell tied to a mule's harness. The countryside rolls out like a painting, golden fields, clusters of olive trees, a distant church steeple piercing the horizon. You pass pilgrims walking slow and barefoot, their cloaks dusted, their faces serene. They do not speak, only nod. Their journey is inward even. As their feet move forward, you pass a trader, his cart heavy with jars of oil and clay pots packed in straw. He whistles a tune from the coast and offers you a fig split and sweet. Further on you see a courier, a royal messenger. His cloak bears the emblem of the crown. His horse is lean and fast, its sides damp with sweat. He does not stop. His message is sealed in wax and urgency only. A few are trusted with such tasks. They ride from court to court, castle to castle, throughout and dusk, carrying the very breath of kings. Now the road narrows. It winds into forest. Tall oaks arch overhead, their branches whispering to one another. Air here is cool and green. You feel the moss beneath your solace, the shift in light. This is where travelers tread carefully, not because of wolves, but men bandits know these paths. They wait in the shadows, listening for coin purses. So you walk faster, aware of every snapping twig, every Rustle of leaves, at last the trees thin, and you see it and end the promise of rest. The innkeeper greets you. With a nod his apron is stained with soup and ash, he offers bread cheesy as stew, thick with lentils and garlic. The hearth is warm, the bench hard but welcome. Beside you a map lies open on a traveler's lap. It is hand-drawn in faded edges, frayed like linen. It marks the roads between kingdoms Toledo, Sagava, Granada each. Dot is a risk, each linear gamble, but also a story in Spain of the 16th century. Roads are veins, carrying spice as secrets, written with trembling hands. On these paths walk farmer souls' and sandals and girls running from weddings they did not choose. Each traveler carries something, a message, a hope, a burden, and the road listens. It remembers every footfall, every wheel creak, every whispered vow shared beneath a tree. And now you return to the road the stars guide you. The wind knows your name, and your journey has just begun. Come with me, you must walk slowly, not because we are tired, but because where we are going rears reverence. The hallway is narrow, its walls lined with shelves, each one heavy with books bound in leather, and cord a tiny window lets in the faintest sunlight. Dust glimmers in the air like drifting gold. You are in a scriptorium, a scholar's sanctum, a sanctuary of thought. Listen closely, you can hear the soft scratch of a quill, the turn of a delicate page. A man leans over a parchment. His eyes, red from strain, his fingers stained with ink. He is copying a diagram of the human heart, learned not from church but from observation. Dissection risk, because science is still a whisper, a rebellion. And parchment many still believe all answers lie in scripture too. Questiones, to step into dangerous light, but not all knowledge. Hides come, let us walk to the gardens in the royal court of Madrida. Noblewoman stoops beside a bed of herbs. She plucks rosemary and sage, presses them between her fingers and holds deeply. 'Tis so mesh is merely tending a kitchen garden too. Others just decoding the language of plants. Each leaf has meaning, each root a purpose. She writes in a small book her own personal codex outside. The cities in the hills and woods knowledge breathes freely. Midwives pass down secrets of birth. Farmers watch the moon for signs of rain. Shepherds chart stars without ever learning Latin. Even the humble apothecary knows more than he speaks. He grinds bark and blossom bowls, petals, and oil his shelves lined with dusty glass. He treats fever with elderflower, pain with willow. He cannot read, but he remembers ever wishing with me to a university. She exists Toledo, Salamanca, Alcala Stone, Arcus lecture. Halls lit by candlelight, men gather here. Most are from noble families, few are questioned, but even her other are rules. Astronomy must never stray into astrology. Medicine must never challenge miracle, and yet in corners beneath cloaks books from the Muslim world are passed hand to hand. Al-Zarawi on surgery, Avros on philosophia, Chandra band. Man's knowledge finds a way, and what of women? Yes, thee too seek often in silence at none kneels in a cloistered library. She copies psalms by day but by night she writes her own and careful curling script. She reflects on medicine and birth and nature. Now one will know her name, but her words will remain, because knowledge is not always loud. It does not always wear a crown or demand a pulpit. Somatiz it lives in the space between questions and the quiet wonder of why. So now rest your hands on this table, feel the smooth grain of the wood. Look at the candle beside you, its wax softening into a little pool, and imagine yourself as a seeker, not of power, but of understanding, a student of stars, a keeper of herbs, a listener of wind and sky. For even in a world of kinks, it is the quiet minds that shape the future. It begins with the light shifting softly from gold to rose. The airons dry and bright no holds. The promise of rush shadows stretch long and languid. Across the courtyard stones birds settle in the eaves here, chirping now quieter like lullabies. A faint breeze stirs the leaves of the fig trees. You can hear their soft flutter like a whisper of silk. It is dusk, the gentle ending, the breath between labor and sleep. Across the land daily rhythms begin to slow in the citiest. Last merchants call out their wares bread. Sellers stack their baskets, children are ushered home sticky with figs and laughter. Market square empty as slowly as lanterns are lit one by one. In rural villages, stools are gathered, the clatter of pails, the creak of carts, the animals are fed. The hens counted the fire as coaxed back to life. Inside a peasant cottage, a woman slices onions into a pot. The scent is rich and sharp, her baby sleeps near beswaddled. In rough linen she hums softly, not for the child, but for herself, in a noble estete velvet drapes, or drawn across tall windows candles. Flicker in silver holders, the lady of the house is being undressed layer by layer, the corset unlaced, the petticoats lifted, the pins pulled from her hair. She exhales, not with drama, but with release. Its ciderch bells begin to ring, the final calla reminder that night belongs not only to sleep but to the soul. In towns, candles are lit in front of small altars, the smell of beeswax and lavender and quiet intention. A mother whispers prayers for her family, a father thanks the saints for rain. Some speak aloud, others simply close their eyes and listen. Not all days are easy, but all nights are sacred, and soft sleep begins to settle over the land like a fine dust. You feel it now, don't you? The quiet pull, the slow descent, the stars begin to bloom above you, one by one, each a lantern in the vast cathedral of the sky. You lay down, perhaps on a straw mattress, perhaps on a wooden cot, perhaps on soft down beneath embroidered linen, but wherever you lay, you are in the same Spain under the same stars outside. Your window, an owl calls on seven, disappears into the dark. Inside a fire crackles. The embers glow like little suns, and your breath deepens lints. Day has ended, but the story continues, for tomorrow there will be bread to bake fields, to sow letters, to send hands to hold. But tonight you sleep with the dust of old roads on your skin, the sound of distant bells in your ear, Sam, the stories of 16th century Spain woven gently into your dreams. The candle is almost gone, now its wax pooled in a sleepy crescent, its flames weighing gently as if it is preparing for rest. Great book before us lies open, its final page, waiting, soft edges curled with time ink faded. Just so we have wandered far together, you and I, through whispering streets of Sevelthrow kitchens, warm with steam and spice throw. Castles that echo with silence, and silken through villages where the smell of bread and wood smoke linger in the rafters. We have met women of every class, carried their joys and burdens with you, learned what they feared, what they cherished. We have walked dusty roads beside merchants, and monks traced our fingers along the margins of forbiddance. Books stood in quiet awe beneath cathedrals of stone and sky, and now the sun has set. The world of the 16th century begins to fade, not lost, no, never lost, but tucked gently back into its place like a pressed flower between pages. Let Ewis close the book now with great care. The leather cover is cool beneath your fingertips, clasp clicks softly shut. The right is done, but some part of it remains with youth. Scent of orange blossom in your mouth, echo of bells in your ears, feeling of rough wool and polished wood. You have not just heard history, you have lived alongside it. And too, I'm so glad you joined me. Thank you for walking with Methrow, shadow and sunthrow, tapestry and tailhouse. We return to now, let us not rush. There is no need to hurry. Feel your body where it rests sink a little deeper. Notice your breath, though. It moves gently in and out like waves against a quiet shore. The room around you is still, but now you carry something more, the littlest texturous voices of a forgotten century tucked gently in your memory. And if ever you wish to return, you need only whisper my namery, and I will meet you again with a book in my hands, a story on my tongue wind, a candle lit just for you. Good night, gentle soul, sleep deeply, and may your dreams be woven in silk and starlight.